Well, I did make it back to my covered bridge just in time to catch the a little bit of color in the sky, a little bit of color in this cloud here, and I've already taken the photos, so, well, sorry. What's up, guys, and welcome back to the channel where we learn to and talk about photography until we're sick of it, and today I'm photographing a covered bridge. Just waiting for a band of teenagers to finish throwing walnuts into the river. So if you saw the end of my last video, I had intended to come back after I shot a barn and have a sunset shoot here at the Matthews or Cumberland Covered Bridge in Matthews, Indiana. So that's where I am right now. Apparently it's a popular spot to wind down an evening in the most classical of American ways. So I'll show you the composition really quickly because I already made the photo getting back here from the barn where I left you last time. And getting into my waders and down here and composing the photo was a pretty rushed process. So you missed some action there, but I will walk you through the composition of this photo, tell you a little bit about the location before we head out. So I came down here by the waterside because, as I mentioned in the last video, I was very interested in these plants that have been able to surface because the water level of the river is really low. I think I'll have something to say about that here in just a second. And so I'm privileged to shoot as much foliage underneath the bridge as possible. Had a great sky. Fortunately, I got here before this lamp came on, so I didn't have to contend with that reflection in the water, but I did compose so that I had the reflection of the covered bridge right here in this gap in the foliage. I'm not necessarily crazy about how much of the frame this big void of water is taking up, but you know, those were the objects of the scene and the things that I had to work around in order to make this composition. Not sure what else I have to say about it. I'm satisfied with the color that I got in the sky, and I will show you the photograph that I made right now. So this bridge was built in like 1877. That's not right. I'll put that here in the video. But an interesting fact about it is in I think 1931, the water in this river, this is the Mississauga River. The water in this river got so high that it washed the bridge downstream. So if you can imagine this, I can easily wade from side to side, and I'm sure you can gauge somewhat from the video or from the photograph. The water level here is very low, and that speaks, I think, somewhat to the weather we've had this summer and the reason the foliage is in the state that it's in now. Maybe I'll talk more about that later. But if you can imagine the water level being so high, now the bridge was lower at that point, but being so high that it would carry away an entire bridge. And so the bridge has been remounted and relocated to this area here sometime in the mid 1930s, where it has rested until this day, and it is still passable. So I will try to get some footage of my car driving through the bridge as well before I take off. You're looking at the foliage here. This is about as colorful as it's been north of I-70 that I've seen. So it's the colors down south were quite a bit stronger, and I don't know if I've just come too late or what, but they're sort of having the leaves going straight to brown and falling off the trees, kind of autumn here, not like the really strong, colorful autumn. I have been able to collect some good footage, but it's sort of hit and miss, and I'd say this area is a little bit more of a miss, but I am glad that I came to check out the location because I've had an awesome evening here photographing here in Matthews and in the environs of the city. So let's pack up and head out. driving through the night last night, I stopped to sleep at this truck stop, and I swear to God, when I pulled in, this sign was up. So, I don't know. What I'm thinking is I slept really good, and I missed something interesting last night. Okay, we're going to see a waterfall this morning. Off we go. Okay, so we're here at noise. I hope you can hear me. I'm here at Cataract Falls. This is Indiana's largest waterfall by volume. You'll probably recall if you saw the episode where I went to McCormick's Creek Falls with Christopher Clark, aka Indiana's Photography in Focus.
Largest waterfall by volume here in Indiana.
He informed us of that fact, and this is, you'll see that this being Indiana's largest waterfall by volume, the flow is not a bit too paltry, so despite that fact, the colors actually look great here, and I actually have got a feeling we're going to have a fantastic morning of photography here, and I'll tell you exactly why that is right after this quick announcement. From flourishing farmland to bustling cities to natural nooks, Indiana is full of charming little scenes, and that's why I'm proud to announce my 2023 Indiana Charms Scenic Photography Calendar. The Indiana Charms Calendar is a beloved gift among homebound and homesick Hoosiers. It brings your love for Indiana imagery inside, and at $14.99, it's the same price as a generic calendar, even though it's made in Indiana and it ships right to your door. But the first 50 pre-orders of the Indiana Charms Calendar are going for $12.99. That's $2 off each calendar at indiana-charms.com. Don't just get organized, get inspired when you order your 2023 Indiana Charms calendar at indiana-charms.com or use the link in the video description. Indiana Charms, all year. Okay, so I'm right here, right in the bowl of the upper falls, which is very cool. I'm loving the access here. So there's an upper falls portion of this park and a lower falls portion, and don't take my authority for anything because this is my first time visiting here. But based on the access I've seen, the ability to integrate foliage into the photograph, and something else that I'll show you here in just a minute, I found the upper falls to be more interesting to me this morning. I hope you can hear me over this freaking waterfall behind me. So as I said earlier, Cataract Falls is Indiana's largest waterfall by volume, which should probably tell you something about the water levels here upstate and the amount of rain we've had over the summer. It's been an incredibly dry summer. But I'll show you really quickly the photo that I have framed up, and then we'll move on to a second photo subject. Okay, so this is how I had this in mind for the horizontal aspect ratio. So I'll pan the camera around real quick just so you can see. If we go to the right here, there's this is sort of a construction. This is not natural, so it would be great to have the photo framed a little bit more to the right, but I'm trying to frame the photo around this, unfortunately. And if you can see down here by my feet, this is as close as I can get safely to the waterfall. I could go lower, but then I'm going to be shooting up, and then there's just too much of the sky. So this is like a good medium elevation for me to be shooting dead on across to the foliage on the other side of the ravine. So we're panned this way about as far as we can go. And then when I come out of the 16:9 crop, you can see there's a little more foreground here and a little more foliage. So there's this downed wood. This is a huge tree. I don't know how well you can see that for perspective, but you know, at very first glimpse, I thought, well, that's unfortunate. That's a big distraction in the middle of the scene. But the more I've looked at it and studied it, the more I've enjoyed its diagonal placement, and also it's catching a light really nicely and showing off the texture of the woods. So it's gone from being a nuisance to a critical part of this photograph. And I also took some test shots handheld, which were enjoyable. The light is just now starting to trickle in, but I brought the tripod down here so that I can get some longer exposures. And I'll take a couple of those exposures for you now. So this is polarized. I'm all the way out at 16 millimeters right here at the base of the falls, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so I also had in mind to capture a couple of vertical orientation photos, and I'll walk you through those right now. So this is the first one. It's a tighter shot. This hot spot at top, I've kept that in intentionally to play with in post-processing, where I'll try to bring a little bit of a glow behind that to give the sense of the light is coming from behind, and so the reason that part of the photo has gone to white is because the sky is just totally blown out back there, but I think I can soften that down and give that a nice effect when I pull this into the computer. The vertical orientation is also letting me showcase some of the fallen leaves here in the foreground and on this outcropping, which is one of the things that attracted me to photographing in this location, to give that sense of the autumnal timeliness of this photo. And this tighter photo is also sort of letting me showcase the juxtaposition of these two diagonals, the natural shape of this rock that's been here for eternity and this tree that will probably be here for a few more weeks. So I'll take that photo now, and I'll show you. You can also see how I processed that hot spot, and I'll now show you the second composition that I had in mind, which is very similar but just a little wider. So with this one, I've really got those leaves in the foreground, and I'm putting the bowl of the waterfall right bam in the middle, so the whole photo is shaped around. It's sort of an oval shaped photo with the waterfall feature right in the middle. And you can see I've got the tripod leg here in the frame, so I'll correct that really quick. Just give it a spin and a pan, get it tilted back up, and we're in business. And then the other thing that I might mention for this wider photo is the leaf on top. I intend to keep that in, as opposed to some of the leaves creeping into the scenes that you've seen in other photos that I've taken on this trip that I will probably Photoshop out. This one I want to keep in. And the last thing that I'll say about these photos while I'm down here fighting the waterfall for you to hear me is the light. I haven't had any opportunity to really play with light on this trip, and so that's been fantastic this morning. I've actually waited here on location for just over an hour for the light to filter down into this scene where we're starting to get a sort of, let me underexpose this just a little bit, where you can see the light is just starting to kiss some of the surfaces here in the scene, and so I'm very excited about that. And it's just one of the joys that I've had photographing this morning. I'll talk to you about a couple more when I get away from the waterfall and you can hear me a little better. So, like I said, this has been a fantastic morning to do photography. The light's been really nice. The scenery is great. Peak autumnal scenery, and you know, for some reason, this being a weekend, I can't imagine why, but there are maybe 3 or 4 other small groups of visitors here, and this is maybe one of the most Instagrammed locations in the state of Indiana. So I've been happy to have a little bit of peace and solitude without interrupting other people and without worrying about other people interrupting me, which has been one of the main enjoyments that I've had over the last couple of days, especially last night and this morning. At the Covered Bridge last night, you know, in locations like this, I don't feel like I'm doing something odd or suspicious or inappropriate being out in these areas and photographing. I'm not on private property, right? I'm not hanging off the side of a road somewhere, hanging out of my car window. So I don't know, I guess it is nice or maybe even necessary to encounter some difficulties or challenges when being out making photos, but it is also nice and necessary sometimes to just be able to relax and enjoy the experience a little bit, and that's basically been my morning here this morning. As you can see behind me, there is another covered bridge here. I know, so many covered bridges. So if you're enjoying that, I'm gonna photograph that next, and then there's an entire covered bridge festival going on right now. It's the biggest festival in the state of Indiana, and I'm gonna check that out also, but I'm gonna save all of that for the next video, so be sure to join me again on my fall foliage photography road trip, adventure, whatever I'm calling this. And until I see you then, you guys keep an eye out and a foot forward, and thank you for watching.